All right. What is everyone's favorite website? Let's hear some. And let's make sure it's appropriate for a classroom discussion.
About W3 schools.
Okay, W3 schools. All right, let's form a list here.
Probably going to use that a lot in this class.
Okay. Okay, why do you like W3 schools?
It will tell me how to use HTML and CSS, and it's pretty well organized. So I
Okay.
researched the site.
All right, so here's what I'm hearing. Well organized, very useful. What's another of your favorite websites? Wikipedia. And why is that a favorite?
Pretty much the same thing.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
Social media, like, would you count that?
Yeah.
Like Facebook?
Okay. Facebook. And why that?
Well, it makes me laugh sometimes.
Okay. Entertaining.
Yeah.
That's certainly fine, right? We're not so deadly serious that everything has to be informative and educational. We're allowed to have fun once in a while for, I don't know, an hour a week or something like that. Anything else? Anyone else have a favorite website? Okay. So these are our favorite websites. All right. What are websites that we hate? You can say it if you have something in your mind.
I'm trying to think.
My campus is hard to navigate, feels outdated.
Yeah. Good point.
My campus is easy to use, but my campus is
Okay. So what was the word? What were the words that you used to describe my
it
campus?
feels outdated,
Outdated, and then you said something else.
unorganized.
Hard to navigate.
Yeah.
Okay? You see, I secretly suspect that someone was going to mention one of Elsie's websites. That's why I told you it was okay to say it. All right? Your face isn't on camera. I'm not going to turn this over to the authorities or anything. And even if I did, maybe they need to hear that. Yes?
I was going to say, I don't like the Wizards of the Coast Dungeons and Dragons website because it's just too animated.
Okay.
It's just too much.
So,
imagery.
So is this the official site or a fan site?
The official site, I think. It's Wizards of the Coast. They own the copyright.
Okay. Dungeons and Dragons. And why don't you like it?
Because there's just so much in terms of graphics, and they do that thing where they are like sliding images around on the screen from one to the next. So if I was sitting there watching it like a movie, I'd be like, but I'm trying to like research something, and it's just kind of visually overwhelming.
Okay. Are these good descriptive terms? Too much, overkill, overwhelming. Does that kind of hit the mark? Anyone else? Anyone else have one? Okay. What do you think are the best design websites out there? You guys are making me earn my money today. Yes.
The adjectives you described above, the class described above, well organized,
Okay.
easy to navigate, directs the viewer directly where they need to go, instead of some convoluted loop
Okay.
or some corner of the tiny spot or corner on the page that directs the reader has to navigate beyond it a while in order to kind of pick
Okay.
it up. Sometimes just easier if the user, the first time they're on it, they find what they need.
Okay.
First time or two, they would know where everything is. If it takes time to learn a site, you have a problem with the site.
Okay.
Because you only have like 7 seconds.
Okay.
You lose interest.
I think all those are really good observations. I'm just going to write down the characteristics of a well-designed site are pretty much the same characteristics of favorite sites. Does anyone have a specific one in mind?
I do.
Yes.
There's this site, well, there's a Pathfinder game very similar to D&D, and there's a site, their site, Paizo.com, P-A-I-Z-O.
P-A-I-Z-O?
Yeah.
.com.
And there's a system reference document,
Okay.
meaning it's just the rules, but not like a lot of ads, not a lot of blinky things, just the rules that you're looking up. And I like it because there's a lot of almost redundant links. So if you want to go from one topic to the next, you have only just to click right there. You don't have to go like
Okay.
back to the home screen or search something else.
Well, let's take a look at this. And where?
Pathfinder.
Pathfinder? Okay. Rulebook?
I think so, yeah. Online rules, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, they changed it a little bit.
Okay.
But still.
I always hate that, right?
Yeah.
I always hate that because I use some examples as good examples and bad examples of websites. There is something that you can use, by the way, to find out what a website used to look like. And that's kind of fun. It's called the Wayback Machine. Yeah. Did anyone ever watch, what was it, Bullwinkle with Mr. Peabody and his boy Sherman?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they had the Wayback
I
Machine.
remember that.
Yeah. But it's an Internet Archive. And what you can do is you can pull up how a website used to look. So let's look up Paizo.com. And it doesn't always work. Sometimes there's issues with it. But, so let's go back a couple years to 2017. And let's look what it looked like on June 28th, 2017. At 3:19:03, I assume that's AM. Okay, it's doing time travel now, so it takes a second. Okay. And I'm going to click on rules.
Yeah, exactly. And then you go to the left where it says Rules Archive PRD. That's what it used to look like.
Where do I go? Rules PRD?
Yes.
Okay. Again, we're time traveling, so it takes a minute to do this.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And what were the characteristics you liked of this?
Well, you see all those links open, please.
Okay. So I would say, if I'm summarizing, clear navigation, go to anywhere, from anywhere, and so on. This, by the way, is a lot of fun. If you want to even go back and see like what Learning Communities website looked like a bunch of years ago. So we can go back to 2002. January 18th. I was just hired 10 days before that, because I was hired January 8th of 2002. A historic day. Every once in a while there's a problem, like it looks like we're getting a broken images here, which is unfortunate. Anyhow, this isn't what we're talking about today. This is just sort of a fun side quest to continue with the role-playing game theme here. Anyone else care to mention a well-designed web page that they like to use? I'll put one of mine, Google. How can we call Google a well-designed page? Because there's really not a lot there. We go to Google. How's that well designed?
Because there's not a
It
lot
serves
there.
its purpose, exactly.
Yeah, because
Yes.
it serves its purpose. When I go to Google, is my aim to be entertained? No. Chances are I'm looking for something. And therefore I want to get to whatever I'm looking for, and then I'll be entertained, all right, or informed, or whatever. So, the main thing of Google is their search engine, right? That's what made them their money. Front and center is their search engine. They put you in the box, so all you have to do is start typing. You don't even have to click on it to start typing. And you can type in what you're interested in. The top, so many ranks, top so many searches are listed. I don't know how they know I need an oil change. All right, I'm guessing that that is just a happy coincidence and they're not spying on me or anything. But you can type in what you want. As you type it in, the IntelliSense shows you that, the suggestions, and we get really good results. So, I would say the thing about Google that makes it well designed is it's easy to do what I came to the site to do. And it's not hard to do other stuff. All right? I go to Google, chances are I'm searching for websites. But you know, I could be searching for images, in which case I click there. I might want to get to my Gmail account. I click there. Less frequently, I might want to do some of these other things. Go to Google News, Maps, Contacts, Google Drive, Google Calendar, and so on. So, the more likely things that I want to do are real easy to do. The most likely one, searching, is front and center. The less likely ones, but still pretty likely, like probably many of you have a Gmail account, all right? Maybe one of the things that you search for frequently is images. Those things are not front and center, but they're pretty obvious. And then some of the lesser known things, well, they're not that hard to find. All right? Plus it gives very good search results. All right? And so on. Okay. What about bad webs? What about poorly designed websites? Let's Google poorly designed websites, because this is a lot of fun. All right? There's actually a book. It's an older book, and I don't know if there's a newer edition, but Websites That Suck is the title of the book. And it has examples of really poorly designed websites. And it's probably more fun looking at those than to look at well-designed websites. So let's look at the worst website designs of 2018. It's not that long ago. All right. Oh, wow. Look at this. That's painful.
Whenever I came on this site to buy, I don't want it anymore.
Exactly. I will give them a tiny bit of credit, like a sliver of credit. At least there's no animation on it. There's another site that is like this that actually has animation on it, so that makes it maybe even a little bit worse. What is bad about this site?
All the images are different size.
Yeah, the images are different size, so they don't really lay out. That's true. That's not necessarily the first thing I'd pick up on, but that's a true statement.
It's crunched.
It's just so cluttered. Notice that things are different color without any apparent rhyme or reason. In other words, why is this link green and this link red? Or pink, or whatever you call it. And this one blue, and this one green, and this one blue, and this one dark blue, and this one red, and this one magenta maybe, and this one black. It doesn't seem to represent anything. It's just so very cluttered very difficult to find your way around. Oh, I lied. There is animation at the very bottom. Animation, in addition to being annoying and distracting and taking up too much bandwidth, can actually be dangerous for people that have epilepsy. Certain kinds of animation can actually trigger seizures. So that is something to be aware of if you're creating web pages and you want to put animation on it. This is fun. Pacific Northwest Xray. A little bit of animation that adds no value to the page. The best thing I can say about this site is it's better than the last one that we looked at. It's not quite as colored and cluttered, but it doesn't seem particularly well organized. The background doesn't really add any value to it. Maybe makes it a little hard to read. I'm almost surprised that this made the list, because this is like ordinary bad, right? This isn't like spectacularly bad. This, if anything, looks like a website from like 1998. All right.
Speaking of which, the Space Jam website still exists.
Oh, well, that's one exception. That Space Jam website should stay exactly as it was forever, as a memorial. Mr. Bottles.
Oh my god.
Well, it's not
It's
too
the
bad.
Background's hard.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. What is Mr. Bottles?
They sell liquor.
Pardon me?
They sell liquor.
No, it's a collection of old bottles, right? Antique bottles?
That's the point. All right. The point is, I have no clue what Mr. Bottles is. It might be either of those two things. Maybe they sell liquor. All right. Maybe they're a collector of bottles. Maybe they're a company that provides bottles, a bottler. You know, that like, you know, hey, you have a, you know, you make you're an orchard that makes its own wine. Hey, you can buy bottles from us. I have no idea, looking at this, what Mr. Bottles is. I would guess that you're probably right that it is a collector, because need to appraisal. All right, FAQ, let's see if we can find something. Yeah, it kind of looks like this relates to a collector. Contact Mr. Bottles about Wisconsin. That is my first. Oh, dive down. Look at this. Oh, my goodness. And back to Surface. I'm kind of loving that. All right. My biggest objection is, at a glance, you have no idea what this site is about. Let's look at Ford.com.
Oh, that's supposed to be a bottle cap. I just never realized that.
Oh, we'll have to go back. Ford.com. Don't tell me that's not the website of the Ford Motor Company. Okay. Ford Motor Company, one of the biggest companies in the world. They have their logo on here, And it's pretty clear that they deal with vehicles. All right. What's another big company? Apple. This doesn't have what I was expecting to have. But the point is they make it very clear, even these huge companies make it very clear what organization they're for at a glance. So Ford Motor Company and Apple need to do it, so does Mr. Bottle. Now, what did you say about Mr. Bottle? Well, that was a bottle cap?
Oh, yeah, that thing that looks like a spinning Federal Reserve System symbol right there in the S.
Oh, this?
That's supposed to be oh wait, no, it's not. It's supposed to be the
Okay.
Federal.
My other objection to this is there's animation that doesn't really add a lot to the site. Let's look at one more. Suzanne Collins. Okay, actually, it looks like maybe they Googled and they found themselves on a list of bad websites, and they changed it, because this looks a little different, maybe, than the design. And they have some good criteria on here about what makes something a bad website. And I'm sure we could find other bad sites if we wanted to. Penny Juice, if I remember, is a really bad website. This one they're kind of looking at some of the finer points, not necessarily the really horrible ones. All right. Here's a question for you. We saw a bunch of examples of poor design websites. I'm not going to write it down. Is it possible to say, we listed 4 groups of websites, or we talked about 4 groups of websites. I talked about your favorite websites, and I talked about well-designed websites. I talked about websites that you hated, and we talked about poorly designed websites. Can we say that the websites that you love are probably well-designed, and the websites that we hate are probably not well-designed?
I would say probably, for the most part. Yeah.
I would agree with that.
You don't want people to look at your website and hate it.
Right. I would agree with that. I'm trying to think of an example of a website that I love that I would say is poorly designed. Or a website that I hated that I would say is well designed. All right. Now notice when we look, and again, we sort of almost concluded this when we said that the characteristics of a well-designed site are pretty much the same as our favorite site. Well organized, useful. Well organized, useful, entertaining. All right. Under web design, clear navigation. Easy to do what I came to the site to do, not hard to do other stuff. this is the one thing I try to emphasize in this course, that for many people, when they talk about well-designed websites, they talk about websites that look beautiful. All right? I'm not here to tell you that that shouldn't be your aim. Of course you want the website to look nice. All right? There's actually studies that show that if people like the way something looks, they actually are willing to spend more time trying to figure it out. So that's why Apple pays a lot of attention to the design of things, the iPhone and all that. It's sort of, people love the design of it and the way it looks, then you're more forgiving if it has a flaw. And it might be the same for websites too, probably is. So we definitely want our sites to look aesthetically good. However, that's not the... All right? The Mr. Bottles website looked good. All right? It wasn't an ugly website. It wasn't like the car dealer that was so cluttered and all that. Yet there were clearly things wrong with Mr. Bottle. All right? There were animations that weren't needed. It was very difficult at a glance to tell what the website was about. All those sorts of things. All right? So the pure aesthetic quality of the site is important, but it's not the be-all and end-all. All right? The functionality of the site sort of takes precedence over the aesthetics of the site. All right? There's an old saying in web development, content is king. All right? In other words, content is what brings people to your website. No matter how beautiful someone makes a website, people aren't coming to the website to admire how beautiful the site looks the way that you look at a painting or a sculpture, right? Can you ever think of a website like, well, I'm not interested in antique bottles, but wow, this website is so beautiful that I'm going to come and look at it for a while. It just doesn't make sense, right? What sort of takes precedence over everything is that it has the content that you want, and perhaps even more important, it has the content that you want or provides a service for you in a way that's easy to find, easy to navigate, being well organized. All right? How many times did we say, either positively or negatively, that the content in the site was well organized for good sites, and for poor sites, hard to navigate, overwhelming, too much, and so on? It's funny sometimes when you have conversations with people and you critique their websites and you mention something and they say, well, that content's on my website. You know, if you can't find it on the website, it really doesn't matter if it's there or not, right? You can have tons of content on your website, but if it's not organized in a logical way that the user can understand, all right, then it's really not a very good website, and it's not a well-designed website. So we're going to take a different approach to web design than maybe other places do. We're not going to start off talking about aesthetics. All right? Later on in the game, yeah, we're going to talk about it. And we'll look at ways that you can do things and figure out ways to make the site look more appealing and all those great things. Because it is important, right? We want our sites to look good, and beyond that, we want our sites, the appearance of our sites, to match the tone of the content. For example, we talked about that before. A website for Barbie is probably going to have a lot of pink in it. A website for a heavy metal band is probably going to have a lot of black in it. All right? But that's not going to be our first part of our discussion. We're going to start off talking about goals. All right? Now, the one observation I would have is well-designed websites don't simply appear. All right? They don't happen by accident. Well-designed websites are the result of a concentrated effort, a conscious effort, and a concentrated focus to providing a website that meets the user's needs, that meets the user's goals. So one of the first things you want to do when you're thinking about a website is you want to identify who your users are, who your typical users are, and what their goals are. All right? So there's two groups of people that have goals for any website. There are the users of the website, and there is the organization that made the website. Organization that made the website. Both of them have goals, right? An organization wouldn't create a website if they weren't trying to get something out of it, right? Now, depending on the organization, the goals are going to vary quite a bit. For an online retailer, the goal is to sell stuff. For a college, the goals are going to be many. To attract new students, to provide information to existing students, to allow students to engage in the normal activities that students do, that is, register for a class, maybe drop a class, maybe add a class, and so on. Look at their invoice, find how much they owe, find out what books are available, are needed for the class, and so on. But if the organization only considers its goals, then a website won't be appealing to the users. Therefore, the designers of the website have to consider not just the goals of the organization, but the goals of the people visiting the site. And we'll call them the users. Now, here's something to keep in mind about users. A lot of times, people in IT talk about the users as though there's one kind of person out there using your website. Well, we want to make it so the users can find the stuff that they're looking for. Well, there's a lot of different users that could be visiting your website, and they all might have different goals. All right? So it's very difficult to think of who the typical visitor is to a website. Who's a typical visitor that's visiting Lorraine County Community College's website? Can we make some observations about them? Oh, okay. Hold that thought. Student. Or are there different categories of users that are going to be visiting the site who may have similar goals but might also have some different goals? So, student is absolutely one of the users of LCC's website. Who are other groups of users that will be likely using LC's website?
Teachers.
All right. Faculty / employees. What's an example of something a student might need to do on the website that a faculty person doesn't need to do?
Register for classes.
Register for class. Yeah. Now, I could register for a class. In fact, I have taken classes here. But if you're talking about what are the primary goals of these different groups, registering for classes probably isn't a main goal of most faculty people. All right? What's something a faculty person might need to do that a student would not have to do?
Enter our timesheet.
Enter a timesheet, right? Or request a vacation day, or some HR-related function. All right? So even though these are both people, groups of people that are visiting the website, their goals can be different. What's something that both students and employees or faculty might be interested in?
Days off, the course schedule.
Yeah, the course schedule. All right, the semester calendar. What's the first day the semester starts? When is spring break? What week is finals week? When is the end of the semester? When is commencement? All those sorts of things. I need to know them, and students need to know that. All right? The one I was thinking of, especially last night and today, is, are we going to get a snow day? All right? Let me tell you, as much as, if you remember when you were a kid, or maybe even now, and got a snow days when you're a faculty member is like about 10 times as thrilling as it is for a kid, because it's like such a throwback. All right? So the point I'm trying to make is that these groups might have some sort of goals that overlap, but are going to have some sort of goals that are different for each category. Now, the college is a good example of a larger website. There's a lot of different groups of people that are interested, or that could be interested in LC's website, who it would be a good idea to address the goals of. For other kinds of websites, maybe there's less groups of people. All right? What are some other groups of people that might be interested in LC's website besides student and employees?
Vendors.
Vendors. All right. Anyone else?
Counselors.
Counselors, yeah.
Other universities.
Other colleges. Prospective students, right? Because students have needs, and people that are thinking of coming here probably have some of the same needs, but they probably have some different needs as well. All right? Members of the community. LC has a lot of events, Stocker Center and so on. So the library, the gym. So there's a lot of things for members of the community to do here, even if you're not a student. So these are all groups of people. Now, other sorts of websites, there might be fewer groups of people that are interested. I'm thinking of, like, say, a website for a restaurant. All right? What groups of people might be interested in a website, a restaurant's website? This isn't a trick question. Customers, right? And what do you mean by customers?
People who either ate there and might go to review it, or people who are thinking of going to eat there.
Okay. Right there, you actually possibly have two groups of people, right? People that have already eaten there versus people who are thinking of going there. And they may have some of the same needs. They might have some different needs. If I ate at a restaurant, for example, I probably have a pretty good idea if I like it or not. If I haven't gone to a restaurant before, I might be curious to see what other people's opinion is. All right? Anyone think of a third group of people that might be visiting a restaurant's website?
People looking for jobs.
Possibly people looking for jobs. The other example I'm thinking of is if the restaurant does catering. All right? That's a little bit different than just going down and having lunch or something if you're going to hire them to cater an event that you're putting on. My point is that even for smaller websites, there's not one kind of user that's going to be visiting the website. There are potentially multiple different kinds of users that are going to be visiting the website. And it's your job to identify and prioritize the needs of those different users when you're developing the site. What we're going to go over next time, if you haven't already, be sure you read the section, the module in Canvas about the project. Because what we're going to do is we're going to go through step by step of what you need to turn in for your project design. All right? You're going to do the project in 2 steps. You're going to do the design. And by design, I mean you're going to identify the purpose of your website. You're going to decide who the users are, what different groups of users there are, what your goal as the organization making the site is. And then you're going to go from there. So we're going to follow a very specific methodology for this. All right? Because remember, good websites don't happen by accident. Good websites happen as a result of deliberate thought and deliberate planning. All right? Any questions? All right, we'll see you in lab.